Welcome back to the Guardian film show, in which a bunch of sloppy, immoral journalists get wasted, overheat, and wreak a casual havoc on everything around them. Please note, though, that if this week's show turns out to be a train wreck, we at least have some fairly high-profile company. Hang on to those safety straps. We're heading clean off of the rails. Right now, the arrivals board looks a lot like this. We've got director Guy Ritchie back with a bang and a wink with the man from U.N.C.L.E. We have the eye-opening Precinct 7-5 lifting the lid on police corruption in 1980s New York. And we have the lovely Greta Gerwig turning in circles as the ditzy Mistress America. But before all that, the train wreck. It comes in the form of comedian Amy Schumer making her big screen breakthrough and apparently hell-bent on reducing the traditional rom-com to a bunch of twisted, smoking body parts. Here's how she goes about it.
Before you judge, you should know I'm doing fine. My friends are awesome, my apartment's sick, and I have a great job at a men's...
This is Amy, a free-living journalist at Snuff magazine. She doesn't care what she writes. She's not fussed who she sleeps with. And she is absolutely positively not about to fall in love with Bill Hader's gawky sports doctor.
At the doctor's place last night.
My boy got intimate.
Yes.
Sexual intercourse. Oh!
You never spend the night. What were you, blackout drunk?
No, I was sober. I had like 2 drinks. 3 max. 4 now that I'm tallying.
I'm joined now by the journalists Peter Bradshaw and Benjamin Lee. Peter, this is directed by Judd Apatow, but it's very much Schumer as the defining voice here, isn't it?
I'm not entirely sure about that. Amy Schumer she's the star, she's the writer. As far as I know, she's the sole or perhaps the chief credited writer. We've been kind of extensively told that this is going to be an unconventional rom-com. She's not going to be a traditional blushing sort of Anne Hathaway-ish rom-com heroine. She's going to be sleeping around like a guy. She's going to be drinking like a guy and smoking dope like a guy. In fact, that's not quite what happens. It is a pretty conventional rom-com. It's pretty conventional. That's why I thought it was funny, but it was kind of disappointing on that score. But basically, after some montage scenes of her sleeping around, and she has a reasonably funny, but basically I think seen it before kind of affair with a bodybuilder who is sexually conflicted. I feel like I've seen those kind of gags before. She settles down to a straightforward monogamous relationship with this sports doctor played by Bill Hader. I didn't think it was as tough or as cynical or as nasty as any of Judd Apatow's other films. It's kind of, people suspect Apatow being kind of sexist or even misogynist now in his movies, but I think those movies, the films that people don't like This Is 40, for example, I think they still have a kind of acrid quality.
Yeah, they have a bite.
They have a real bite. Or even Bridesmaids, that was much more of a train wreck.
Yeah.
You see, this title is Trainwreck, but nothing happens to her, really. Her career isn't really damaged at all, really. So I got to admit, I thought it was funny. There's funny stuff in it, definitely funny stuff in it, but it's not as spectacular as I was hoping it was going to be.
I quite like the first half, and then it went south for me. And there's so many false notes. Like, there's the kind of celebrity cameos, like LeBron James, the basketball player, and even Daniel Radcliffe doing this kind of spoof movie. And he's like playing a bad actor, but he's bad playing a bad actor.
That whole skit just fell flat for me,
A lot of it, there was a lot of false notes.
I mean, like Apatow's films, most of them, he's not very good at editing. The film seems to go on for so long, so many scenes fall flat, yet a lot of things aren't really covered. So there's a brief sort of brief dissection of her character, but they don't really go that far into it. So they kind of criticise her and then make her change for Bill Hader. And Bill Hader's this kind of ridiculous manic pixie dream boy.
Yeah,
he has no flaws whatsoever. He's perfect. She has to change for him. And considering her work before, I've been a big fan of hers for a while. Most of her skits are about sort of pushing the boundaries, about sort of challenging gender stereotypes and challenging the way that women are presented in films and in TV. And this is the kind of role that I feel like she would criticise in the first place, because she's made to feel bad for her lifestyle.
But as a calling card for her, it's not without promise.
Oh, yeah, it certainly does, but it feels almost like she's leapfrogged ahead to the kind of 3/4 of the way through her career in a way. She's kind of done it, already sold out. Now she's making a pretty trad thing, and now what's she going to do? Is she going to be the sort of like the Steve Martin of comedy, going to be even more conventional and conservative from now on? I don't know, but she's certainly, she's great. She's great. She's a real turn. She certainly sells it. There's no question of anybody thinking, well, she looks like a TV person who's been over-promoted. So no, I'm going to be interested to see what she does next, certainly, yeah.
So, off the record, do you want to maybe go grab some dinner? Actually, Aaron, I think you're so great, and but I'm a writer. I'm your writer. You're my subject, and from now on, we need to just keep it professional.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we really like each other and we should start dating.
No, I'm saying. I'm confused. Am I not communicating this right? Like
No, I hear you. I'm just saying I disagree. Do you like me?
Yeah.
Yeah, see, I really like you. So we should be a couple.
No. I have plans.
What are your plans?
Dentist.
Is that true?
No.
Amy Schumer's Trainwreck veering off the track and then very quickly back onto it. On balance, I think you're better off with Mistress America, which skirts similar themes in its tale of a gauche college student and her chaotic prospective stepsister. Ben sat down with the gilded creative partnership that is Noah Baumbach and Greta Gerwig.
She lived exactly how a young woman should live, who wants to spend her youth well.
Must we document ourselves all the time? Must we?
She did everything and nothing.
You don't know what you're selling. No one will know how to buy it.
What are you selling?
So many things.
Being around her was like being in New York City.
I'm an autodidact. Do you know what that means?
Yes.
That word is one of the things I self-taught myself.
I don't think anybody fully grows out of sort of the idea they have of themselves and the world and the person they actually are. I mean, you know, we all, every time we look in the mirror, it's like, oh, all right, you know, and I don't think anybody is so well adjusted that they don't have, there's not some gap there. But, you know, hopefully that gap closes as you get older, hopefully.
Tracy! Welcome to the Great White Way!
You're not a genre actor, you're not playing people in sort of on space, or you're not in horror films all the time, because you're playing people who live in kind of real situations.
Yeah.
People have a misconception that when they meet you, they kind of know you because of your characters.
That's true. I mean, I feel like there is a sense of, oh, this is exactly who she is, or, but you know, in a way, it's okay, because I feel like when people say I loved your work, it gives them a sort of intimacy with me that's it's nice. It's like they have seen something that meant so much to me, especially with these ones that I've written. There was a period of time where nobody was coming to me, and I thought everybody, because the last movie was in black and white, I thought that everyone thought I was dead. And then they said, oh, whatever happened to Greta Gerwig? She died. She was 80. She's dead now. Remember that movie? It's over.
What are you doing here? Who are these people? They're my friends.
The last time I saw you, you were hiding in the bushes, and then you started incoherently yelling at me and my husband about how we had ruined your life. And the time before that, you were throwing up at my wedding.
Are those my cats?
Ben, this is like almost half the length of Trainwreck, and yet I think it contained so much more.
It's so fast. I mean, the style is their version of a screwball comedy. So the dialogue comes at you so fast. And like Noah Baumbach's films, he packs so much characterization and development into such a short amount of time. And this, on paper, is kind of a sitcom-y kind of premise. But again, like While We're Young, which has a kind of sitcom premise as well, he makes it all feel so real because of the characters and the way they interact. Greta Gerwig's character, on paper, again, sounds like she could be incredibly annoying. When you're given this kind of force of nature, larger-than-life character, you're going to love this character. She's so crazy. You sometimes instantly don't like them because of that. Like Juno, that was my problem with Juno. I kind of felt she was being forced as this charming character. Okay. But Gerwig's character is so much more complex than that. She has these flaws. She has problems with her. When you hear about her past, there's kind of a bully. There's kind of this darkness to the character as well.
And there's a tragedy in that you know that she's not going anywhere, and there's a pathos to that, isn't there?
Well, I think Baumbach has this recurring theme through his work of characters who are putting on a false front of the person they want to be seen as, and then after a while, near the end of the film, you kind of see who they really are.
And there's a sense in this film that all of these characters have this kind of idealised notion, but they're almost so dazzled by possibilities that they're kind of paralysed.
Yeah, they're obsessed with possibilities. There's I think a great line where, facetiously or not, Brooke, played by Greta Gerwig, says, golly, I wish we still lived in feudal days when you were either king or you're a peasant and you were happy with that. Now she's oppressed by the burden of having to get on to be a huge career success, which social media makes even worse. She's even more visible as a failure. And basically all her career options, all her projects they are just a kind of swirl of distraction because she is very bitter about having her one viable idea, her one chance was stolen from her, along with her ex-boyfriend, who is now was working for Goldman Sachs, and the idea that this is just a massive displacement activity which dawns on you after a while. And I kind of love what I think of now as classic Baumbach, I guess Baumbach/Gehrig theme of the midlife and the quarter-life crisis, that older people are scared of being old, but younger people resent the lack of career status involved in being young. They want to fast forward ahead to be the successful movie star, stroke writer, stroke interior designer.
Without putting the legwork in.
Without putting the legwork in. And that's what attracts them to each other. They're like sort of time travel versions of each other. She's obsessed with the idea of hanging out with Tracy and being her contemporary and being seen as her contemporary. And Tracy wants a shortcut to what Brooke has or appears to have already. And I thought that was done with such style, those ideas worn with such airy kind of grace in the movie.
I really don't like to leave the city.
You're gonna want to take the Hutch to the Merit.
I'll bet Dylan is still in love with me. Marrying Mimi Claire is like buying a cashmere sweater from Old Navy.
Even if he's not, this is a great investment. And don't forget, she still owes you.
Yeah, it's win-win. Because I'm sure he still loves me.
I'm not driving you to Connecticut to break up a marriage. I should be in my room reading Nicomachean Ethics.
Oh, calm down, rich boy.
I'm not rich.
Yes, you are. You have a car.
No, I'm not. My dad is a mechanic. He and my uncle have a body shop. I had this car because it was something he could give me.
Sorry. I think I offended your boyfriend.
He's not her boyfriend, he's mine.
Why are you here?
Because Tracy made Tony drive you.
But why did you come?
I had a bad experience with adultery before. My last boyfriend committed adultery when we were together, and I just don't like to let my boyfriends get too far.
Adultery? Why the fuck does it matter? You're all 18. Where's this old person morality coming from? There's no cheating when you're 18. You should all be touching each other all the time.
Lola Kirk and Greta Gerwig in the glorious Mistress America there. But lest we forget, New York is not all about sophisticated banter and collegiate misadventures. It's also a cesspit of drugs, corruption and slaughter. Precinct 7-5 shows the city's other side.
I consider myself both a cop and a gangster.
Forget about Beverly Hills and all that other stuff. The ghetto is one of the richest neighborhoods there is.
In the misbegotten 1980s, Brooklyn's Precinct 7-5 sat in the midst of a war zone, and patrolman Mike Dowd was merrily playing both sides. He's skimming drugs halls, he's accepting kickbacks, he's plotting a hit. But he is at pains to point out that he's still a good cop.
I never had a fear about getting busted. Michael Dowd did not have any fear.
Peter is a real-life monster who's the equal of anything fictional, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, as everybody's pointing out, it's very gripping. It's like something from Goodfellas or Bad Lieutenant. And in fact, Mike Dowd, the present-day Mike Dowd, sounds eerily like Joe Pesci when he talks. I mean, he really does, because he's so weirdly... well, not weirdly, but very startlingly unrepentant, cheerfully, utterly unrepentant. Even when he's talking about the cops that he knew who were shot and killed by other bad guys, and he becomes very tearful. But it's a weird, sentimental, self-pitying kind of display that he puts on. He's a fascinating character because he looks so cuddly and avuncular now, as opposed to here, he looks like the psychotic bad guy, the legendary dirtiest cop in New York City's history. But there is something very gripping about that. It's kind of pointless in a way because you sort of know what's happening. These are guys who inevitably are going to become addicted to their own supply. Mike becomes more and more crazed and paranoid, of course, because he's doing all this cocaine himself, mainly because he can't think of anything else to spend it on. He hasn't got the resources or the imagination to think, what am I going to spend it on? There's a very poignant moment where he says, I play golf. I play a lot of golf. And you think, but why? He doesn't seem to be living at large. He's still living in the old neighborhood. He can't imagine anything else. He's got no plan for what to do with the money. It's just a kind of day-to-day activity.
Did this make New York look like a foreign country to you?
Yeah, it's unrecognisable to the New York we know now. And it gives you that feeling of how claustrophobic it can be in New York. And now being claustrophobic in New York is because it's of other reasons, too many froyo shops and too many hipsters, and it gives you that feeling of what it must be like to be on that island and there to be crime everywhere. And it's one of the most dangerous places in the world at the time, and it really paints that picture. And I think the best thing about the film, one of the best things, is that, like with the best documentaries, it doesn't force a structure on what happens at all. The events were so shocking and incredible they don't have to force any structure themselves. It's all through the first-hand accounts of what happened. And Dowd is so so charming in a way, but also so repellent. There are so many incredible things that happen, so many incredible sequences, so many tense moments. There's one part when they're taking pictures of a local sort of drug crew, and then they get found out, and then the police are actually being chased by the cartel at the time. It's an incredible film. It's really fascinating.
La Compañía, it's a very serious Dominican gang.
$24,000 in our hands to talk.
Mike was afraid. Say no problem.
I'm taking a risk of going to jail for a long period of time, and you're gonna short me a dime?
His word against mine. And I'm a cop. I'd break your neck if your neck needs breaking.
I had 3 machines counting money, and there's still not enough time.
Everybody on the floor now.
Precinct 75 leading us on a heritage tour of old New York. Probably best to bow out with a little glossy escapism. It's the last film off the rank, and it's surely the biggest. It's Guy Ritchie's Man from U.N.C.L.E, swinging through the Cold War with one eye on the mirror. Here's the Guardian's Andrew Pulver going toe-to-toe with the film stars Armie Hammer and Henry Cavill.
Are they still following us?
Yes?
Does he have just one hand on the steering wheel?
Mm-hmm.
When you hear something that sounds like a gunshot, drive.
The great thing about this movie is that it's not a comedy. It's a spy movie set in the 60s with a serious undertone, but doesn't take itself too seriously, and there's some great light moments in it as well.
You know, you can have a fight scene and you can film it 1,000 different ways and it would all be a convincing fight scene, but with funny, it's either funny or it's not. So, like Henry said, we weren't trying to make a comedy, and any sort of humor that came out of it sort of came out of it organically, which was a fun way to go about it.
Oh, and you have a new code name.
Code name?
Yes, rather a good one.
Guy Ritchie always wanted to make a Bond film. This is probably his closest he'll do to do it. But is this for you two maybe a bit of a rehearsal, you know, angling in there for when Craig steps down?
I'm angling for Bond. Like, I'm gonna take it back from the Brits. You guys watch.
I thought you are Bond. Didn't they call you the other day? And they haven't really. It's not the. Sorry, yeah, he's auditioning soon.
Ben, talking about New York being a foreign country to you, I bet you never saw the original show.
I think I vaguely remember it as a kid. I don't think anyone in the film really cares if anyone's seen it before or not at all. I don't think anyone cares about the original show or making an interesting film either.
Or the Cold War or
anything. Films in general, cinema. Yeah. I think it's proper kind of dog days of summer now. After Fantastic Four last week and now this. I think there was one point when it was going to star Tom Cruise, George Clooney, and be directed by Steven Soderbergh. And now we get Armie Hammer, Henry Cavill, and Guy Ritchie.
What went wrong?
Yeah, what a punishment. And I mean, as leads, Hammer and Cavill are the blandest, most boring leads imaginable. It's like they've been picked because they go to the gym. There's nothing interesting about them at all, and that's what the film's supposed to be sold on. It is their chemistry, but it's so dull that there's a attempt at homoeroticism in one scene, quite obviously with their dialogue, but they're so asexual, it falls completely
Well, they're close
flat.
horses, aren't they? And almost the film is explicitly setting them up as that. It's a style piece.
It's a total style piece. It's exactly like the worst parts of Matthew Vaughan's Kingsman. This infatuation with tailoring and styling, and also three-piece suits. There's a lot of stuff about Henry Cavill and his three-piece suits, which don't look particularly well cut or stylish. He looks kind of stuffy and flabby in it. It just looks terrible. And I say this creamy art direction. Everything has to slow down while we get a load of the production design and the 60s, and it is so paralysed and moribund. It's just so, frankly, boring. The action slows down to zero, especially in scenes where somebody's at the wheel of a truck drowning, and Guy Ritchie cuts out everything on the audio track apart from the Italian pop song. You can hear this sort of Italian job style pop song. And you think, what's happening now? Is it supposed to be artistic Guy? I mean, I guess it is, because it's not very interesting or exciting. I don't think it's supposed to be camp. It's supposed to be bromance. It's supposed to be what Roger Moore and Tony Curtis had in The Persuader. Something like that. It's supposed to be a bromance, but you're supposed to think they're... rightly or wrongly, you're supposed to think they're straight, all right. You know, no question about it. Whether or not that's the effect, I don't know.
Take a right. Then an immediate left.
Nicely done.
Director Guy Ritchie treating the Cold War to his particular brand of laddish cool. Just time before we cry uncle for a few of your questions. Peter, favourite examples of cinematic swearing?
This is an interesting one. There aren't very many examples of cinematic swearing I think of. I did enjoy in recent Asif Kapadia's Amy, where Amy gets very upset with somebody filming her in the bathroom and calls him a cunt. And there's something so kind of horrible and yet punchy about it. And I did laugh out loud in a very immature way, basically because she was so kind of incorrect. The C word is a tricky one, but she used it so brutally and it was quite funny.
Ben, what's your most poetic swearing movie?
There's a great scene in The Master when Philip Seymour Hoffman is spouting lots of his bullshit to his followers, and a skeptic comes in the room and starts, saying, "You said this can cure leukemia," and you see Seymour Hoffman suddenly start to unravel, and out of nowhere, in his kind of retort back, which is getting increasingly unhinged, he just calls him a pig fuck, and it's such a bizarre use of swearing, and it shows him off to his followers. A lot of them are elderly in the room. You see their faces kind of repel against him, and it's shocking now, but it would have been so much more shocking back in the 50s too. So that's probably my favourite.
And is there any films that you love purely for how gorgeous they look, in spite of being naff in every other respect?
Probably the last two Terrence Malick films for me. I think To the Wonder looked
yeah, you're right,
beautiful,
actually.
as they always do, and I think he has this great skill of matching an incredible piece of music to a beautiful image.
Yeah.
And there are some beautiful images.
There's the wet sand that has a kind of trampolining effect when you step on it. And there's a lot of a wasp bouncing on a ceiling.
And he uses,
it looks great, but the rest of the film, I'm thinking.
It's an empty film, but yet again it looks beautiful, and that's how frustrating it is with him these days, I guess.
We always try to end these shows on a note of beauty. My thanks to Ben and to Peter and to you for watching the beauty that is The Guardian Film Show. It's back, same time, next week.